Hi, welcome to rajxilinive and the series over video series of understanding the job descriptions while applying. In this video, I'm taking a job title of data analyst because, as you all know, data analysis is all about understanding various types of data in reference to the business activities itself is concerned, and how to analyze and interpret the data using different statistical tools and other tools, all that stuff. So based on that, whatever the decisions will be taken in an enterprise is what it happens. In regard to that, of course, data analysis or data analyst kind of roles are widely required across industries, irrespective of technology, irrespective of the domain. Requirement over the roles of data analyst is something becoming mandatory for all the businesses, because any enterprise or any organization want to take some decision on their business related decisions, they have to rely on some authenticated and authorized output, right? So for that, sometimes they require to analyze their existing data based upon that. For example, if you take a retailing store or something like, so they must be knowing about the customer perception, customer demands, customer satisfaction, expectations, all that, right? So that predicting the future requirements. So based on that, what are the business changes or the decisions they wants to make will be done by the organization accordingly. So this is what an example in reference to the data analysis. So data analysis becoming an essentially important role in any of the organizations, nothing to do with any technology and domain. Role of a business analyst remains becoming regular in all the organizations. In today's video, I am explaining about the job title of data analyst, as I mentioned, which I have categorized into 3 to 4 different variants. So one is about underlying competencies that I'm going to discuss. Second part, I'm going to discuss about the data related ones. Followed by this, what kind of tools are required. At the same time, what are the other skill sets which are required for us to have it, right? So these are 4 usually I am dividing. The first one is called underlying competencies, where if you see underlying competencies are nothing but the kind of project management or resource management skills an individual must have. At the same time, every individual should have some verbal and written communication skills followed by the presentation skills when we are managing our stakeholders or when we want to interact with our team, stakeholders and all that. Verbal and written communication skills followed by the presentation skills are essentially important. So apart from that, how to manage projects and resource management skills are also required. Apart from that, how to team handling the teams, right? So how to work with teams. At the same time, make sure teams will be completed their deadlines. Means if you are somewhere nearer to project management experience kind of stuff, wherein you will be enrolling into these roles. Otherwise, it is not required. Apart from this, you need to establish some key performance indicators so that will be measured, so that we will be taking some business decisions and all everything more effectively. So this is the first one, which is what we call it as underlying competencies. The first one is called underlying competencies. So these competencies are common for any profile. So means maybe different, it depends on the profile to profile. There are some changes might be taken place. Changes might be taken place. Some sort of skill sets and all everything are mandatory or may be required. But as a whole, there are some common skill sets. So what is that I'm going to explain in the videos usually as part of this video series I'm making. The maximum to an extent possible, what are the common skill sets required for to become a data analyst is what I'm explaining. Depends on the profile to profile, some kind of tools, the kind of industry they belongs to, whatever the requirements they have and all everything will be add on, right? So because that you cannot because that cannot be satisfied by every individual, right? So for example, if I had experience in banking industry for a long time as a business data analyst, right? So I may be having experience something relating to banking related stuff, right? So I may not have experience something relating to retailing or healthcare or supply chain, all that stuff, right? So those differences are there, right? So in reference to that, there will be some skill sets which are additional, might be, so that we can't satisfy every profile, but to an extent possible, whatever the common skill set is what my skill set is. This is the first one is called underlying competencies. The second is called data related stuff, because as being a data analyst, we should able in a position to acquire the data because that is what is required. So wherein usually data will be considered as two different things on a high level. One is primary data and secondary data. Primary data, what is that we have taken from the this thing, whereas secondary data, what is that you are collecting from the outside, right? So data sets, whatever and all everything, those are all secondary data. Primary data, which we are collecting directly, right? So one, we should able in a position to understand and identify what exactly primary data was and what is the secondary data. Understanding about both those two things is required. Followed by this, we must be knowing about some knowledge over the kind of databases followed by the data systems we have. At the same time, exposure as well as expertise on something relating to data discovery or data analysis. Followed by this, how to create some data models, right? So database designing, followed by data mining and as well as segmentation, how to evaluate data quality and visualization, data mapping, data enrichment, data transformation. All these things are essentially required. So data is what first thing we have to collect. That is first thing. So once you have collected the data, how to map the data, how to enrich the data, how to transform it, right? So how you have to evaluate the quality of the data. So these are all something which, being an individual, one should be having some experience with. At the same time, we need to understand about data flows, like because visualization is something essentially required. So data flows is something essentially needed to understand it. At the same time, how to structure the large scale data sets and all everything. This is also something related. So it's not only about underlying competencies, but knowing about data related stuff and all everything is essentially required for any person who is applying for data analyst job opportunities. The third category is about the kind of tools. Of course, these tools, any one tool, for example, if you take SQL itself is something it's becoming mandatory nowadays for all the profiles. So knowing about SQL, at least basics of SQL, how to write queries in SQL, right? So that sort of knowledge, basic knowledge is required. Advanced level of SQL and all everything, if an individual is having, that's a benefit thing. That will give you an advantage. But basics of SQL followed by how to write queries, all these things were essentially required nowadays for anyone. At the same time, data visualization, you can see, like the data visualization nowadays, we are using some Power BI, Tableau, all that. Any one is sufficient because you don't require to learn both. So if you have experience in Power BI or Tableau, anyone, but how to visualize data and all everything, for that context, it is required. At the same time, knowledge over the analytics, something relating to Adobe and Google Analytics is becoming essentially important nowadays for data analyst work, but that may have some slight variation from profile to profile, it may vary. Now, if the projects are working nowadays on the agile environment, hence Jira, knowing about Jira, Confluence, or also everything is required. Followed by this, cloud environment is what is going on now. So knowledge over data factory and data bricks and all everything is also, for some profiles, it's required. Something relating to cloud environment. These are the two things which is required. At the same time, statistical tools like something like SPSS, SAS, at the same time, basic Excel, functions and all everything, right? So pivot tables, all that is required. Next, about something relating to programming, something like either it could be Python or it could be R programming, or it could be basic of Java programming or something. So that programming skills will also give us an additional advantage. Apart from that, one must have an exposure towards ETL frameworks, followed by extensible markup languages, something like XML, followed by scripting languages, something like JavaScript and all. So these are the tools which are required for any data analyst to perform or for any job profiles or that. Some may come in picture, some may come and add in between. Depends on the profile to profile, as I said. But these are the common, usual skill sets which person should acquire. Followed by this, these are the other skill sets where it's always better to learn nowadays to have some knowledge of the basic coding skills. In basic coding skills are essentially required because it's becoming mandatory for all the profiles. If you see the career transformation, if you see the industry nowadays, knowledge over basic coding skills and all everything is becoming important. So as I would suggest to learn some basic coding skills or acquire some basic coding knowledge, which will make our profiles sustainable in long run, because that the foundation should be so strong. Because if you know the coding basics and all, especially in the field of data analysis or programming kind, that will give us benefit a lot. Of course, maybe on direct you don't see, but the benefit you see when we are in hard times, it will save us. That is one thing. At the same time, knowledge over the cloud related, either it could be AWS Azure, is also an additional advantage. So this is how generally I have categorized in reference to the skill set. What is that required for any job title, especially in reference to the data analyst, is all about. So some people call data analyst, some people call business data analyst, right? Different profiles, but person who analyze the data is called data analyst. So whatever the data it could be and what kind of tools are we using, irrespective of it. So this is what generally the whole understanding over the skill set of data analysis all about. So for more details, and if you have any queries, if you have any questions, any training needs or consulting needs, or if you have any career transition related advisory services or something of that sort, please reach out to the contact details, which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you. I hope this video will help you a lot while you're applying for job opportunities. All the best for you. Thank you.